we do have to contextualize the success with the very real risk of failure. Like the threat of loss is real. And I think it would be, what's the word I'm looking for? Like poor stewardship of us as the IT defenders to not let them know about the very real risk of loss in business. So maybe we have one slide where Doug is playing golf, and the next slide, Doug is eating a frozen burrito in his office at 9 o'clock at night, desperately trying to find all the data that he just lost, or like redigitizing old paper files because he lost all of his stuff.
Right.
Yeah, showing them like, the classic Donald Miller story brand, which is like a really great place to start. If you're on level 1 of copywriting, or if you're on level 0 of copywriting, building a story brand by Donald Miller is a great place. It's like here, a hero meets a guide who gives them a plan, who helps them achieve success and avoid failure. So we want to establish stakes. What happens if you win? What happens if you lose? But my point is that, like, us telling them what winning looks like is stupid. And I think similarly, us telling them what losing looks like is just as ineffective, because they don't have any emotional connection to our horror story for them. But if in that CDI we ask some questions that said something like, what would happen to you? Like, how would your business be affected if you couldn't access Sage for 7 days? And then sit silently for 3 minutes and make them answer it. And they go, well, it would probably lose some time. And then you go, lose some time, and then sit there and shut up. And they go, yeah, well, I mean, I guess the staff would probably, well, maybe they'd be able to do something, but I don't even know if our sales guys would be able to send any orders out. We wouldn't know. We wouldn't have any of the information from our suppliers. Okay, so you couldn't do anything. You just basically look what they said, and then you sit there silently. You make them tell you what failure looks like in their verbiage from them going to the movies. Now they're the star of a tragedy movie in their head, and they're seeing it, watching it unfold. You're not manipulating them. You're being their therapist. Now you're a sales therapist. You're making them confront what would happen if they don't take the proper controls. And then at the end of the CDI, maybe you start with the negatives and then you end with the positives. But like, I do this on a sales call, and when they've done that and adequately sort of squirmed, we go, what do you want to do? And then I make them tell me that they should buy my product. But because they have been in the driver's seat this whole time, but they understand the stakes in a very visceral level, rather than a vendor told me what their stakes were and I regurgitated it. But
how do you tie the value back there, Brian, between their disaster and like them illustrating that, right? Like, how do you, you're like, oh, you should buy my product, but how do you, obviously your product has to do something about that, right? Like, or change the future, right? So like, how do you make that connection?
Yeah. Most of the time what we find is that customers, when a customer or a prospect or a customer is forced to contemplate risk, they are going to sort of reach for the nearest object when they're drowning. So usually they'll tie the value in for you to the effect of like, well, I mean, yeah, and I guess we need to get that done. I mean, is that the kind of thing that you guys do? Well, and how would I guess that's why we're talking, right?